All right, let's get right to it. We're here to talk about the single biggest strategic shift facing our industry. And let's be clear, this isn't a conversation about technology for its own sake. This is about survival, and it's about competitive advantage.
We've all seen this, right? Or at least heard about it. Some junior associate, trying to be clever, feeds a CIM into a generic AI tool. What comes back looks plausible, but it completely misses the story, the real story, that's buried in the numbers. 3 crucial EBITDA adjustments just gone. And the team goes right back to square one. The problem isn't that the AI is bad. The problem is it wasn't built for our world. It doesn't get the nuance, the structure, or frankly, the stakes.
And this slide really shows you the canyon between generic AI and our reality. On the left, you've got simple, everyday tasks. Summarize a document, draft an email. Fine. But on the right, that's where we live. Validating sketchy EBITDA add-backs, scoring a deal against a super-specific thesis, keeping tabs on a complex credit covenants. You see, one side is about understanding language. The other is about exercising judgment in a very specific context. Generic AI lives on the left. All of our value, everything we do, is created on the right.
So that brings us to the core diagnosis here. Why is this gap so massive and so critical? Well, it all comes down to what we call the domain advantage, the ability to apply that specific industry-level knowledge that separates a great deal from a total write-off. And make no mistake, this is not some theoretical discussion about what might happen 5 years from now. The most sophisticated firms are already deep into execution. Just look at Vista Equity Partners. They're reporting that 80% of their majority-owned portfolio companies are actively using generative AI. They are way past the science project phase. The gap between the leaders and the laggards is already forming. And believe me, it is widening fast.
Okay, so let's get really concrete. What does a domain-specific AI actually see that a generic tool is just completely blind to? What does domain knowledge really mean in practice?
Well, it sees the things that actually matter. It can tell the difference between real, recurring revenue and some one-time charge that's been creatively accounted for. It knows that a logo-based churn rate can be misleading, and it looks for the revenue-based churn that tells you if you're losing your most important customers. It doesn't just find the EBITDA adjustments the seller points out, it finds the implied ones they hope you'll miss. This is the fundamental difference between just getting a data dump and getting true deal intelligence.
So if the generic tools are the wrong approach, what does the right one look like? A modern AI toolkit, one that's built for private equity, really breaks down into 5 core capabilities that map directly to how we actually work.
First up, deal intelligence. This is all about speed and, more importantly, focus. Instead of your best people wasting 3 days digging through a CIM just to find a deal-killing flaw on page 87, a purpose-built tool can surface that red flag in the first hour. It takes that initial assessment from days down to hours. That means your A-team spends its time on the deals that actually have a chance.
Next is portfolio monitoring. Now, this is a game changer. This is what shifts your operating partners from being reactive firefighters to being proactive. It's about seeing the leading indicators, customer churn ticking up, key engineers updating their LinkedIn profiles, a good 60 to 90 days before it blows a hole in the P&L. It's the difference between managing a problem and being blindsided by a catastrophe.
Third, investor reporting. Look, this isn't just about making the back office more efficient. This is about protecting our most valuable asset, our LPs' trust. When you can deliver automated, customized, and, most importantly, consistent and accurate reports every single quarter, you're not just saving hundreds of man-hours. You're building and safeguarding relationship capital.
Following that, we have IC and board automation. The goal here is brutally simple. Let your team focus on the decision, not the document assembly. An IC memo is a critical document, no question. But let's be honest, 80% of creating it is just assembling structured data. Automating that part frees up the deal team to spend their time and brainpower on the analysis, the strategy, the recommendation, the parts that actually matter.
And finally, market and thematic research. This is how you create a real proprietary information advantage. While your competitors are all reading the same industry reports from last quarter, a domain-specific AI is piecing together emerging themes from patent filings, from job postings, from earnings call transcripts. It lets you see what's coming around the corner before everyone else does.
Okay, the capabilities are clear. The value is obvious. So the practical question every single firm is asking right now is, how do we actually do this? Do we build it ourselves from scratch? Do we buy something off the shelf? Or is there something in between?
So this table lays out the playbook pretty clearly. Off-the-shelf software is cheap and fast, but as we've discussed, it just can't handle our specific workflows. A full custom build is incredibly powerful, sure, but you're looking at millions of dollars and a year of development before you see anything. For most of us, the sweet spot, the real answer, is right there in the middle, a configured, purpose-built system. You get 90% of the benefit of a custom solution, but you get it in weeks, not months, and at a tiny fraction of the cost.
And let me give you the single most important piece of advice you'll hear today. The biggest mistake we see firms make over and over again is jumping straight to a custom build. Why? Because they overestimate how proprietary their process actually is. Look, your investment thesis is proprietary. Your secret sauce is unique. But the fundamental workflow of analyzing a CIM and screening a deal, that's not. Don't reinvent the wheel. Start with a configured system that already speaks our language.
Now, before any of this can happen, before you write a single check, we have to talk about the absolute gatekeeper for any new technology in our world, security and data privacy. And this isn't the last question you ask a vendor, it's the very first one.
The first non-negotiable is zero data retention. This has to be an architectural guarantee, not just a promise in a legal document. It means the vendor's system never stores your inputs or its outputs after your session is done. Your data has to be ephemeral, period.
Second, SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. This is the absolute minimum bar. It's table stakes. This is the independent audit that proves a vendor actually follows their own security protocols over time. If a potential partner can't show you a clean report from a reputable firm, the conversation is over. There are zero exceptions to this rule.
And third, and this is critical, you need an ironclad guarantee that your confidential data will never be used to train their AI models. Your deal flow, your portfolio data, your LP communications, that is your intellectual property, it's your crown jewels, it can never, ever become part of their product.
Okay, we've covered the why, the what, and the absolute non-negotiables. Now let's make this real. Let's talk about an actionable plan. This is a clear, achievable, 90-day game plan to get started without trying to boil the ocean.
As you can see, it's a phased approach. It's designed to de-risk the whole process and get you some early wins. The first 2 weeks, you simply map your existing workflows and find the one spot where automation will have the biggest, fastest impact. The next month, you launch that one tool and you validate it against deals you've already closed. You prove it works. Then, and only then, you expand to a second use case. By day 90, you have a tangible ROI and a smart plan to scale up.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. The firms that are consistently at the top of the league tables, they're already past this conversation. They are deploying these kinds of capabilities right now. So the question for you and your firm is no longer if you're going to adopt domain-specific AI. The real question is, how much ground will you have to make up by the time you finally do?